Virgo, this is your tarot reading for Valentine's, and it's a love reading, and I only do these once a year, so it probably has quite a long time frame, maybe even a year. Overall, it looks very positive to me. The one thing that concerns me, and only slightly, is that central card, the Knight of Wands. Bold, brave, but does rush into things. Do you rush into love? Could well be that. In the recent past, you had a difficult decision to make. Was that between two suitors? Given it's a love reading, I think that's highly likely. Right now, you're sort of going inside yourself, searching for answers. You're not looking for love at the moment. Probably after this year, you celebrate with maybe family, maybe with friends. I think it is you're celebrating that you've come through this year having learnt a lot. And, celebrating with others probably will put you on the track to finding true love. Not only do we have the Hermit, we've also got the Hierophant. So you are looking for answers to things. You are looking for answers. Answers about love. You might even be following a formal religion about this. What would put you off track is working with others on an issue. But if you look at this rendering, I always see it as something of a menage a trois type of card. Are you tempted? Now, maybe that was this difficult decision. Maybe you are in a relationship and you're offered a lover. Do you take it? I don't think you do. But you are prone to rushing into things, if you remember. You're going to end up sort of a person of action, but a person of informed action. So maybe the opposite of rushing into things, somebody who does act, but in an informed way. It's often associated with enterprise, but then love and money have very similar energies. So maybe you're just becoming a little bit more understanding of yourself and love as a result of this year, Virgo. Looks fascinating. Please stay with me. So the overall energy, the energy that runs throughout all of this, is an energy of being bold and brave and fearless. And you have to be all those things to find love, don't you? My father was from Liverpool, and if you'll excuse this phrase, I think it sums it up brilliantly. And that is, faint heart never won fat tart. And maybe that's all we should read into it. But I think the more negative aspect of this energy is what really it's warning us about. And this is an energy of rushing into things. You look at the rendering, it reminds me of when Lord Carnarvon opened up King Tut's tomb, and supposedly they were all cursed by the curse of King Tut and died. I think all died within a year, rushing into things without giving it full consideration. Now, in the past, you had an important decision to make. An important decision whereby you could see the positives and the negatives about both options. I mean, maybe it was more than one option, but, let's talk about more than two options. Let's talk as though it's two options. And you can't make your mind up. And part of the reason you can't make your mind up is you feel you don't have enough information. But maybe you'll never get enough information. Of course, the whole energy is about rushing into things. you're going to have to take a decision that you don't feel able to take. And that decision, I believe, at first I believed this was about between two potential lovers. And now I think it is about, I think you are in a relationship. And it's about what sort of relationship you want. Is it an open relationship? Is it, I don't know about you, I'm fascinated on this platform about shorts, about thruples. I don't know why I am, but I'm fascinated by them nevertheless. And I think it's this sort of a thing that's going through your mind. Now, I don't think you're taking this decision lightly, even though, the overall energy is rushing into things. Maybe it's saying you have to rush into things because you'll never get the information you want. Because you're going inside yourself. Now, I said that you were already in a relationship. Maybe you're not. Because this is sort of turning your back on love. Maybe it's simply sort of distancing yourself from the relationship you're in. But you're going very much inside yourself. Very much rejecting what you knew and trying to seek answers from within, which is normally a good place to look. In fact, even for this, it's a good place to look. But I'm just not certain that you find them without that sort of experience of doing something. Now, if this is sounding a bit depressing, let me say to you that I'm absolutely certain that you're learning something from this experience. Very important things about yourself, about relationships, about love. And in the future it sees you celebrating. Have you a reason to celebrate? Maybe, maybe not. Celebrating with family and friends. But one thing's for sure is that if you're not sort of determinedly going out and looking for love, but just having a good time with friends, you will find love. It'll happen. It comes at the most unlikely time and from the most unlikely places, and you will find what you're looking for eventually. So I do see the outcomes as very positive, but you're going to have to go through some very deep thinking and very deep considerations of what you're about, I think, as much as anything. Now, you've looked inside yourself for answers, but I think you're also going to look to others, people who you consider to be wiser, tried and tested ways of approaching things, could even be a religious authority. Now, I do think you're considering something that is sort of, what can I say, morally frowned upon by conservative figures. I used the word thruple before. Maybe it is something like that. An open relationship. Maybe it's even to do with your sexuality. But you are considering, I'm sure you're considering something quite radical and going inside yourself, Virgo, about this. But you're also seeking advice from others, people who you respect. No, I'm not going to put any moral twist on this at all. No, I'll say no more. I'll say no more on that. And why do I think you're considering something that is morally challenging, to put it one way? Somewhat outside the norm, or certainly outside your norms. And it's because of this energy here, but this energy here changes everything. So you don't actually do it. You don't actually do it, I don't think. It's an energy of working with others for something creative. But you look at that rendering, that boy between those two girls, and I always describe it as a ménage à trois, and I don't actually mean a ménage à trois in this. Normally, I just mean that it could be cheating, you know. But you look at it, I think ménage à trois really is the best description. I used the word throuple before, didn't I? You know, I said I wasn't going to go into the morals of it, and for goodness sake, don't think I'm stamping my morality on what must be a very important decision for you. But very often I think these sort of somewhat strange moral choices hide a degree of manipulation. So whatever you do, be careful, because I think they're rarely about what they seem to be. Now, of course, you've been giving consideration to this. The overall energy is rushing in, but I don't think you are rushing in at all. I think there's an energy of rushing in, but I think you do the opposite. You give it careful. I mean, maybe you get into the situation. For example, you start dating somebody that's married, and you know you're considering should you continue. They're even suggesting that you become a sugar. I don't know what you call it. Anyway, you become the mistress or the I don't know what's the gigolo. It's not the right word, you know. It's something like this that you've been considering, and as a result of it, I think you come out a lot wiser. But what's more, knowing how to act, knowing what you want, knowing yourself much better. So this interesting sort of moral dilemma, if indeed you want to see it as moral, and as I keep trying to emphasise, I'm not trying to put any of my own feelings on this, but you come out of it knowing yourself a lot better. And of course that's the rushing in. You fell into this situation. You fell into a situation that presented you with a moral dilemma, and you haven't taken it lightly, and you've come out much wiser. Yeah, we can summarise for you, Virgo. Virgo, your love reading is all about, for want of a better way of putting it, a moral dilemma. I'm not going to try and put my morals on it, but I think it's a moral dilemma for you. And it's because you've rushed into a situation. You know, maybe you started dating somebody who's married. Maybe it's much more than that. Maybe it's about your own sexuality. You know, it could be anything. But it gives you a very important decision to make, and one that you feel you can't actually make. You don't have all the information. So you go inside yourself looking for that information, and that is where you will find it. You will find it there, but maybe not directly. Maybe that will frustrate you, that you don't get firm answers from within. So as a result of that, you turn to what you see as authority. I mean, it could be religious authority, some sort of a moral authority on what it is you're considering. I will give my opinion. I think that's the worst place you can go. You must look inside yourself for this. But I think you follow your own feelings more so than this a moral authority. What is the moral dilemma? The thing that looks most likely is something like a throuple relationship, as I see them called on this platform. But you know, it might not be that at all. It might be becoming a mistress or a gigolo, or you know, it could be all sorts of things. But what I would say is, so often these moral dilemmas hide a degree of manipulation by somebody who's more powerful. And I think you going inside yourself, you begin to realise this, and you sort of need to have gone through this experience. And I don't think you experience much, apart from the dilemma. You sort of go through this experience to learn about yourself and what your own boundaries are. And I don't think they're moral boundaries as much as boundaries are not about not being taken advantage of. And I think you begin to realise that. You see through it all and understand it. And as a result, you know, not only are you so much wiser about relationships and yourself, but it gives you cause to celebrate, because you've come through this and you've learned something very important. And paradoxically, I think through celebrating, not necessarily one celebration, but you know, having a good time with your friends, you will come and find a love that you really want and need.